Good evening, everybody. It's meteorologist Erica Martin with Weather Co-op, where weather meets community. We are talking the mountain fire. This is where we left off yesterday, earlier this morning, and earlier this afternoon. We've got to go over a couple of details, including just backtracking to my forecast last night about how those winds were going to diminish or at least weaken by later today, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So this evening, we're seeing much better winds. It's 6:39 p.m. PST, and I am liking the way the winds look right now. Certainly a lot more favorable to helping out with the conditions as far as the fire is concerned. Now, one of the issues I saw earlier is the fire that was spotting at up to 2.5 miles away. Fortunately, it looks like its progression is approaching an area of large agricultural on average, where there is irrigation and much more manageable fuel types for containment. Now, I mentioned that because my father in law is retired firefighter, but I think in total, even though he's retired, he still goes there to the local fire station over 50 years. So, pretty. I always think it's just so impressive to hear his stories and like, wow, what a hero. But I do want to mention to you guys that we were seeing fire spotting. Now, I don't know if that's still the situation right now. I do believe we're still seeing spotting right now, so it's something we have to be mindful of. And spotting refers to the transport of burning pieces by the wind, carried by the wind, as it continues to move through the gustier winds that we were seeing earlier today. As I mentioned, we are seeing a weakening of those winds as that Great Basin high starts to move. That was what we were talking about last night. I mean, we talked about this for several hours, and we'll go through this in detail right now. But we were seeing spotting, and that was a major concern, especially because it was as far as 2.5 miles away from where the fire was burning. So embers traveling through the wind, being carried by the wind. And now, as we're seeing here, a report that was shared with me by my father in law was that it's a much more manageable area, fuel types for containment. But the spotting has started new fires, unfortunately, along the way on the other side of the farm fields and into the residential neighbors, just outside of the downtown Camarillo area, all the way down to just north of 101 across the airport. So that's the update right now with this particular fire, but we're going to go through a lot of details right now. It's 5% contained, and I gotta tell you, considering how we'd seen it at 0% contained all day long, I'm happy with this 5%. 20,485 acres consumed by fire, and we're still not seeing the cause. It's still under investigation, and I've got to tell you, if this is something like maybe it was a cookout, I would really, really look into a stern action there, because many of us, I know I was talking about this, how dry the conditions had been for the past several days. This fire watch is not new. It's been lingering for the past couple of days since last weekend. We also saw wind advisories also issued by the National Weather Service and high wind warnings, things of that nature. Now we're starting to see that the winds are subsiding. But here, as we take a look at SOMAS, this was the location of where this started. We're seeing here that the fire is still a major issue. Let's go ahead and pull off the contour of the smoke, rather, and let's move the watches and warnings off as well. Look at the amount of people impacted by the smoke. So this is your surface smoke map, okay? I want you to pay attention to this right here and look at the direction of the wind profile as well. So don't be surprised now. Thousand Oaks, look at what's happening here. Do you see how the surface smoke is now moving south westward? Okay, so that's because of the winds, how everything is starting to shift. What's happening is that area of high pressure that was sitting over the Great Basin, which was the cause of the Santa Ana winds and really the relentless nature of the winds, this is starting to move. As it moves, we're now starting to see that it's moving the wind along with it, right? As it moves the wind along with it, we're now seeing a southwesterly push there, a northwesterly push really coming down towards the south and west. So Southern California going to be impacted by the fire, by at least by the smoke that we're seeing here. This is your near surface smoke product here issue. Goleta, Lompoc, Solvang, Orchid, Arroyo Grande going to see some strong smoke impacting you. Thousand Oaks already seeing some smoke here. Do you see how so many people are being impacted now by the surface smoke? All right, so I want you all to please share this with everybody. It's very important. I'm going to do what I did yesterday, okay, when I toggled in and out of the products that we have available to you here at Weather Co-op, okay? This was something that I absolutely loved doing yesterday for you guys, and we're going to do this again with the evacuation orders. You can see here zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now, also in the unincorporated Asomas area, we also have our evacuation warnings. This is a potential to life and or property for Zone 7, the area north of Highway 101 and south and east of Beardsley Avenue and south of Central Avenue. Once again, here are the evacuation shelters: Padre Sarah Parish, the Large Animal Evacuation Center, Small Animal Evacuation Center, okay? So we still have to take a look at what started this. Okay, we still don't have that. That's under investigation. Okay, but because of the Santa Anas, that's what accelerated it and really just gave nobody a break as far as helping the fire be contained in some capacity. Now, I do want to talk about the fire in Malibu. That's about 95-98% contained. Thankfully, there were unfortunately some homes that were impacted, but that has been pretty much remedied, 95 to 98% contained. Road closures for the mountain fire include Crestview northbound at Bella Vista, Las Posas northbound at Lewis, Aprisa northbound at Ponderosa, Waters Road from Stockton, Santa Clara eastbound from the 118, Balcom westbound from the 118. And now we're talking about this being a FEMA situation. So I want you to let any of your friends and family, coworkers, colleagues know that the governor has announced approval from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, as we all know, FEMA, to help ensure the availability of vital resources to Ventura County. I'm going to see if I can get that link. Let's go ahead and see if we can hyperlink that. Why won't we? Okay, here we go. On November 6th, California secures federal assistance to support response to mountain fire. I hope you guys are all seeing this, okay? Let me go back to this right now. I want to make sure everybody is tuned in. California, Governor Newsom, thankfully, thank you so much, has secured federal assistance to support response to mountain fires. Now, look, I have done these grants before. I have worked on putting grants together. It's a lot of work. So if you are in this area, if you have friends and family in this area, you've got to make sure. Let me see if I can get this better for you guys here. Hang on, let's see here. Okay, here we go. You guys should all be able to see this. If you have friends and family that have been impacted, they've got to start right now. If you can start for them and you can help them out, you've got to. I believe the actual person, the owner of the home, has to be the person that's filling this out. But if you in some way can help out, please do so. This takes time. Okay, this really does take time. I've been on the side where I've been trying to procure a grant. It was for flooding in certain areas in East LA. It takes time. So please, Sacramento moving swiftly to support the state's response to the mountain fire. Thank you so much to the governor for announcing that California has secured a fire management assistant grant. Okay, so this is a grant that has a certain amount of money. I don't know how much it has. I haven't looked into it. If you guys give me a moment, we can certainly do that together for sure. But for the most part, we understand that this grant has been approved, and we now have to make sure that we can all get our loved ones, anybody impacted by this, the information as soon as possible. So once again, please go to gov.ca.gov/2024 /11 /06 /California secures federal assistance to support response to mountain fire. All right. So this is spreading quickly. It is absolutely just not relenting, but thankfully the winds are, and that's what we were waiting for. Okay. We needed the winds to diminish. Okay. And so I'm going to go back to my graphics here because I want to show you what's happening. Okay, so we do have our fire warning as we see here, or rather our fire near surface smoke and fire that's been burning, right? I'm going to go ahead and overlay this with the actual fire here and remove that so we can take a look at these contours. Really important to note here what we have going on. Fire weather, we have this at 4 kilometers. I think this is a really good product here. Here we'll remove the surface smoke for just one moment. Okay, And now you see how we're seeing a little bit of a better situation with the fire. Now it's only 5% contained. That was also reported at 5:39 p.m. It's now 6:49 p.m. I think we're going to get some better news here. And even though we're still seeing a squeezing of those winds coming down the canyons, I am much happier with the wind profile tonight. Okay, let's add on our near surface smoke once again so we can see the sheer devastation of the air quality. Okay, this is what we're dealing with right now. Look at the air quality. So we are going to have to make sure that if we have friends, family, loved ones in this area, anybody, just post this, share this with everybody. This is what's happening with the air quality as far as that near surface smoke is concerned. And now let's go to this product right here. This is what I talked about last night. We were thinking, all right, how can we absolutely get a better situation happening right now as far as the winds go, right? So I wanted to give you all the hour by hour forecast. I may toggle this a bit, but you all recall we were looking at that area of high pressure in the Great Basin, okay? So just hovering there. But we also have this area of low pressure, that upper level low, this storm system here over New Mexico. So you're kind of sitting right over the four corners. So imagine this. Imagine you have this area of high pressure circulating clockwise, and then to the southwest of it, or to the southeast of it, you have and it looks like my husband's calling, he may want to hop on. To the southeast of it, you also have this system that's working counterclockwise, right? So it's actually intensifying that wind profile. And with the Santa Anas kicking up yesterday, we talked about compressional heating, we talked about the friction of the air molecules, we talked about why those winds were going to be so strong, so hot, so dry. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. I'm going to go ahead while I have a moment here. I might just invite, our Jay Dubensky, our very own Jay Dubensky. Let's see if we can add somebody here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and invite him. If he can hop on, I'm sure he will, with his dad, who once again is a 50-year firefighter, and he's been giving me such great information. I'm so grateful for having him to give me all that info because this was, let's see here. Alrighty, looks like we have an issue here. All right, here we go. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm meteorologist Erica Martin with Weather Co-op, where weather meets community. I'm certified broadcast meteorologist, certified by the American Meteorological Society, Skyward and Storm Spotter, and I'm a Weather Ready Nation ambassador. Let's see, we have sent him an invitation. We will see if he can join us. That would be great. That would be great. Let's see here. Let's see if Jay can join us. If he can join us, that would be fantastic. But right now, we were looking for any type of atmospheric mechanism that would allow this.
Hello.
Hi, you have received an invitation. Are you joining us right now on the Weather Co-op live stream? We hope you are. You're
I can.
perfect. All right, we were hoping to get your dad on as well, but go ahead. We've just sent you the invitation. Give us some information about the fire, all right? We'll see you on our broadcast. Okay. So Jay is going to join us shortly. So one of the things we talked about was, okay, we actually, you know what? Let me show you something else here very quickly. I wanted to show you once again, we're going to go over that compressional heating and how it all worked, right? So we said to you all, now the concern we had, of course, was the Santa Ana wind profile, that how everything was squeezing in. So we talked about our Santa Ana winds, air pushes down, the mountains compress, and then it squeezes through the mountains, right? And it does squeeze through the canyons, and that in fact is what causes that friction and increases the speed, increases the heat, increases the aridity of the air of the wind. Now, when we're looking at there's something what we refer to as called plot value, precipitable water, amount of water there is in a thermal profile. You want to know, because if it's super dry in a case like this, like we saw, see how quickly that fire spread. Very dangerous, right? So we wanted to make sure that we understood that better. But once again, we go to our future cast and we go through this hour by hour, and we see how we can possibly. Do we have somebody? Almost. Well, Jay will join us in just one moment. But you see here how we were talking about we needed that area of high pressure over the Great Basin to move. And the only way it was going to move, we needed a couple things to happen. That area of low pressure, that upper level low that's sitting over the four corners, that's going to continue to move northeastward. Look at this. Look what's happening here. Do you see how it's lifting? Do you see how it's moving? And what's interesting about this, do you see the clear delineation of that pink line? Do you see the rain snow line? Do you see how we've got rain on one side, then we've got the snow on the other? Okay. So now this is telling me we have a cold front that's going to move on, and there's some kind of cold air. I'm okay with that. I do like that colder air moving in, even though it's generally dry air. What I like about it is if you look at that storm system that's moving into Oregon, there is some moisture there. Do you see that? So I'm happy with this right now. This is what we needed. We knew that we weren't going to get a break in the winds yesterday, even this morning. We knew we'd have to wait until this afternoon, really this evening. That's exactly what's happening right now. But you can see here that as that storm that's sitting over basically the Four Corners moves northeastward, and that new storm system dives on down from Alaska, and AKA an Aleutian low, we then start to see that everything is moving. It's allowing us to get a little bit of moisture in the atmosphere. So I'm confident that with this moving through, we're not going to see anything like a fire weather watch. We could see some wind issues, right? I just don't see it because we'll at least have some kind of moisture in the atmosphere, some kind of moisture content in the atmosphere. And that's really important when we're talking about this potential for any wildfires. But as we look ahead, a sneak peek, I'm just cheating, guys. I want to look at the snow that's happening across the plains. Look at this. Oh my gosh, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. You guys are going to get some snow. This is exciting. And look at that nice big storm that's going to move down. Once again, we do need that storm to help us out here because that's going to actually allow us to keep that area of high pressure just moving along. You got to get out of here, sir. You got to get out of here. We don't want you here anymore. We need you to move along. We need something to get you out of here so that we can go ahead and have much better conditions for the firefighters who are fighting right now to help contain the mountain fire. Once again, we've got some serious information here. The cause of this is still under investigation. It started yesterday at 8:51 a.m. Last updated at 5:39 p.m. and we're at 5% contained, 20,485 acres. So sad, just absolutely heartbreaking. And once again, let's go back to show you what this looks like on our graphic here, where we consider everything that comes into play. Okay, we're now seeing here, let's zoom in closely. Yeah, see this storm right here? You guys, you see this storm that's hovering right around New Mexico, Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas. You see this guy is going to maneuver this way, okay? It's going to do this, right? As it does, we're going to get a little bit of a break here that's happening right around our neck of the woods here in Southern California and give us a break as far as the Santa Ana winds are concerned. Okay? But we can see here Lompoc, Goleta, Sullivan, Carpinteria, Somis, of course, that's where it started, Thousand Oaks, Arroyo Grande, Orchid, San Luis Obispo, all being impacted by the near to smoke. Okay, so there's a lot going on here, and I want you all to be really. Oh, and we have a guest here. Alrighty, this is our guest. Here we are. Do we have Jay Dubensky joining us right now, nice and live? Oh, I don't know if he's on with us. He may be. Let's see if we can get this here. All right, hopefully we can. Oh, he might be on. Nope, it keeps on kicking off. Huh. All right. Let's see here. Guys, hang tight. We're trying to get Jay on here, whose dad is a firefighter over 50 years, and we'd love to get him on there. Let's see. Are we on? We might not be on. No worries if we're not. Don't worry. We'll come back to you, Jay. You hang tight there and give us some more information. Could be his camera, could be the. Yep, it looks like it's the signal. He's trying again. All right. So, yeah, we're talking about the impact of the mountain fire, 5% contained, over 20,000 acres burned. This is so sad right now. Incredibly sad. We're trying to get, let's see if we can get Jay on there. Can we? Hopefully we can. If we can, that would be great. I'm going to leave this on for him. He can join us whenever he feels ready to join us. But yeah, we are definitely really excited. Oh, is he on there? I might have to sign off and come back on. I'm not sure why I'm not getting Jay, but it looks like we might be getting him soon enough. All right. Let's see.
Testing.
Yep, I think I see him.
Okay.
1 second.
Sorry.
I might see him.
I had to reestablish my position here.
Get
Sorry.
our earpiece in. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear
All
me?
right, we are back in business, guys. All
Okay.
right, we've got Jay Dubensky on here. I've got my headpiece on. We have about 50 watchers right now, and they want some information on the mountain fire, if you will. I know your dad is a firefighter. He's been one for over 50 years, and I just want you to give us some information, especially on what you were telling us about the spotting that was about 2.5 miles away.
Yes. So, thank you for the shout out to my dad, by the way. Uh, he was a 36-year municipal firefighter, now retired. But once a firefighter, always a firefighter, just like a
Right.
Marine.
Sure.
So the issue that we were looking at and that he was certainly talking about earlier was the spotting that is going on with this fire due to the wind specifically. The fire is burning at such a rate that the embers from it are being uplifted and carried, much like we see with tornado debris. And it's being thrown up to 2.5 miles out ahead of the fire line, which is starting new fires in areas that were not previously affected by the main fire. So if you look at the fire map currently for the mountain fire, there is another area of sizable burn that is occurring quite a distance away from the main fire in
Are
a
you looking at
residential.
Lompoc? Is it Lompoc, Solvang, Goleta, Carpinteria? Like I'm seeing the expansiveness, but I'm also seeing now Thousand Oaks in the line, the crosshairs here.
Yeah, so with the primary direction as the fire has been burning so far, we're looking at the southwesterly direction from the main fire, which is taking that spotting down toward Camarillo.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, right now, the fire that's been burning in mostly wooded area and vegetation area is about to run into an area of large agriculture. So we have hundreds of acres of farmland of various types. Most of it's like nursery stock
Right.
and small trees. But
Right.
the key component there is that those areas are all irrigated for sprinkler
Right.
systems. So they're
Okay.
able to actually turn the sprinkler systems on to
Oh
help
yeah,
suppress
that's
the
fantastic.
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving through those agricultural areas. On the other side of the farm fields, if you will, is the outer city limits of Camarillo, where there are some residential neighborhoods and more hilly terrain, more vegetated terrain. That's where the fire is spotting and burning into those residential neighborhoods. That's going to burn straight down to the 101 freeway. And the fear is that if the wind lasts long enough, it will carry the spotting across the 101 to the other side of the 101, which gets you over toward the area of Camarillo Airport. For those of you who know the geography there. And Camarillo Airport is only about 2 miles from the beachfront in Camarillo. So you have a lot of potential there for more significant damage with that fire. And then to Erica's point, moving to the west, or moving to the east rather, of the main fire line, you start to run into the Santa Monica National Forest area if you go far enough over. And that's where, Thousand Oaks, Moore Park, all those areas are located, which is a much tougher fight for the firefighters. That's a lot more difficult terrain to access. And they'll be relying on their air attack resources, which are doing a great job. Don't get me wrong. They are in a constant mode of air attack even now. If you look at the live tracking, they have multiple air resources attacking that fire as we speak. So they're doing their best to contain it before it gets into those other areas. It's relatively positive, I guess, that the fire is in an area where it's somewhat triangulated by the 101 and Los Angeles Avenue, and I believe I can't remember the name of it right now. I'm sorry, but there's another main road that runs through the mountains, and they are working really hard with the airdrops to triangulate a fire line around this fire, as big as it is, to keep it from jumping over those roads. It's going to be a really tough thing for them to do. But if the Santa Anas can lighten up a little bit, they'll be in a much better place come this time tomorrow if they don't have to deal with quite as much wind.
Yeah, these are great updates, Jay, and thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to get your dad on there, of course, my awesome father-in-law. What was he
Uh,
just not in the mood?
so Dad is very informative, but at the same time, he's very camera shy. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, but he is certainly paying attention to it, and he's offering a great deal of information as always
yeah,
from the perspective of a firefighter and firefighting technology.
yeah.
He was looking at the burn type, what they're dealing with there in terms of the vegetation that's involved, and the proximity of the structures really concerned him also. There
Oh
are some
yeah,
neighborhoods.
absolutely. And
Yeah,
now, Jay, let me ask you. I've been looking. We're at 20,596 acres. Okay, new
in
number just came in.
2 days.
Updated. Okay, 6:32 p.m. That was the last update. 5% contained still. So tell me, what do you? Okay, so now here's the deal. We
Yeah.
talked about this area of high pressure over the Great Basin. Now, we talked about this last night. We were talking with the viewers how we didn't see, I didn't see a break in those winds until this evening. That's exactly what's happening, right? We were waiting for that area, that low pressure to just start to migrate northeastward. It's got to move out of there. We also have that low that's going to move on down from the Aleutian Islands. That's going to help at least bring some type of moisture into the atmosphere. It's also going to budge that high pressure out of the Great Basin. Tell me how you feel that maneuvering of the upper level steering, especially right now when we're looking at 300 millibars instead of 250 millibars. How are you feeling? In fact, what I'm going to do as you're talking about that, I'm going to actually go up in the atmosphere with our winds. Would you
Okay.
want to share any enlightenment there as far as like what your thoughts there with the fire?
Yeah, sure. So the natural element of a Santa Ana uh, is really dependent on 500 to 725 or 750 uh, because the setup occurs more toward the surface, in the up to 5,000 feet, 10,000 feet. And when you have a dominant high pressure over the Great Basin, as we did yesterday and today, you typically are going to see a Santa Ana impact anyway. When you combine that with a low pressure system like what you're seeing over New Mexico right now, uh, you just exacerbate that Santa Ana effect by bringing the combination of the high and the low together. You're getting a gradient that worked its way into the Santa Anas, and that just increases the wind potential there. The system that's moving away, that's bringing all that snow to Colorado and everything else that's going on, uh, that is going to help pull the 750 away, and even at the 500 is going to begin to lessen some of the impact of that tight gradient that we had.
Mhm.
Uh, and then with the approach of that frontal boundary that you were talking about from the Pacific Northwest, you're going to introduce hopefully increasing dew points, because
Yes.
with one thing that people from the East Coast might not know about Santa Anas and that particular area, uh, two of the most dangerous elements of Santa Ana winds are the downslope impact,
Right.
which continues to dry the air out that's already dry to begin with, just
Hmm.
continues to decrease humidity,
Hmm.
and the warming of the downslope into those locations where this fire is actually burning right now. So you
And
are
we talk
dealing
about
with,
sundowners, huh?
yeah,
Sundowners get right, similar story.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So those are two really difficult things to throw in the mix, along with 40, 50, 60, 70 mile an hour winds that make flying really hard to do, especially for helicopters. And that's why all day long today, it's been a challenge for the firefighting teams to get those air resources exactly where they need them because of the wind impacting the pilots.
Right.
It wreaks havoc for helicopters.
Sure.
So they're bringing in a lot more of the two engine fixed wing aircraft to do a lot of these drops today.
Hmm.
And I think tomorrow, once the winds come down a little bit, you're going to see a significant amount more of helicopter attack, which is very good because they can get into a lot tighter locations than the fixed wing aircraft can.
And very quickly, Jay, as you move forward, I'm going to go ahead. If you look at that box at the top there, you can
Yep.
see that we're going at starting at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, right? Even though we're 7:09 here, we're always focused on Central, just the location of this map. Let's move this through. We talked about how those winds would diminish or at least weaken by tonight. Now let's move this through early tomorrow morning. Look what's happening with that storm, right? Do you see that? The storm that's sitting over the four corners, look how it's moving up and out. As it does, it allows that high pressure system that's sitting over the Great Basin to budge. You see the ridge starting to break? You see how
Break
the
down.
ridge is now, right? Do you see the ridge now? Okay, so now the ridge is going to start to weaken, and then there is that next storm system that we want to actually get here. Do you see that?
Right.
I actually,
Well,
you might not be able to see it. Hang on one second.
I can see it, but I think for
I
the
just
viewers,
noticed.
if you wanted to put your arrow tool on and point that out.
Let's see. Okay, here we go. I just
Yep.
hit the QR code. Okay, so now, okay, we're gonna go back to the beginning, guys. Let's go back with me. Okay, so what Jay and I are saying is we knew the winds were going to be a problem this morning, today, early this afternoon. They have been. They're improving. The reason they're improving is because we've got a couple of signals in the atmosphere, right? We've got that area of low pressure. Do you see that right over the four corners? It's really over and the central plains. It's going to move northeastward. And actually, if you keep looking in the Gulf too, you're seeing Raphael. Do you see how all of that is working? It's lifting, it's moving up, and then that ridge starts to come down. Area of high pressure is budged out the way because of that new storm system that's moving on in from the Aleutian Islands. Okay, so that's good news, right? But we need another couple of hours. Okay, so we need a couple of hours. We just need this to budge. That storm's not moving very fast. Everything seems to be moving quite slow right now, which is it can happen, right? We get these upper level winds that are just not steering as quickly as we need them to. That's what's happening right now, but no worries. In about another 12 hours, we're definitely going to see much better situation, right, Jay?
Yeah, so is that, I can't see it just because of the size of my phone, but
Sure.
is that last image 12 hours out?
So let's see. So we're going to go we're starting at love it. Let's go. So we're starting at 9 p.m. CST. Let's go until 9 a.m. CST. Do you see how quick how it's starting to lift? It's really going to be that front that comes down. And now do you see how that next storm starts to move in as that one storm over the four quarters moves out?
And what's the time on your last frame?
Okay, so let me actually just go 20, so 9 p.m. Let me go to 9 a.m. Are you seeing that at 9 a.m.?
Yeah, I see it at 9 a.m. I was just wondering what the
Okay.
last frame.
Okay, let's go to
Time
9
was.
p.m. So that's
Okay, so
24 hours out. We like that, right?
yeah.
And then the very last frame is Sunday, 9 p.m. CST.
Okay, all right.
And that's,
So
I wish it was moving a little faster, but it's not, and that's okay.
that's okay.
Mhm.
It's okay. But one of the things that you can see there is the chance for some precip to begin to inch down towards Southern California there at the very end.
Yes.
That's a good thing because that means we are going to increase the humidity and the dew point. Uh, but for the sake of fighting this fire, the calming of the wind is going to be extremely helpful to the firefighters to help contain the fire. Whether or not they're going to be able to work on extinguishing it is going to take a little while. But if they can contain its growth and it really, I would say, herd it into the area where those major roads are, where
Yes.
they can build a perimeter around it. I'm sure they'll get
Yeah.
some more bulldozers and other hard equipment up there to help with that.
Right.
Within about 24 hours, they will begin to get a good handle on this and hopefully slow it so that it doesn't impact more acreage than what it is now.
Right. And I'm pulling a real time 2 hours. And while we're doing that, Jay, I'm going to add a few contours onto this, including the surface smoke. I thought that was absolutely just so scary. I just want people to be safe, because this is going to be a problem as far as air quality is concerned. Okay, that's a very big problem, and we have to make sure that we are updating everybody so that they can update their friends and family. Now, we're also seeing fires and we're seeing some smoke in Oregon and Washington State and Idaho. Right now, we're just going to hone on in right here into what's happening with this mountain fire, because this is the one we've been covering for the past several hours due to the Santa Ana winds. But I will get to those fires in Oregon as well as the fires in Washington and Idaho. Okay, so now here we see, Jay, that we're waiting for all of this to kind of just move along. You're correct. You are correct. Let's talk about a couple of road closures. Crestview northbound at Bella Vista, Las Posas northbound at Lewis, Aprisa northbound at Ponderosa, Waters Road from Stockton, Santa Clara eastbound from the 118, Balcom westbound from the 118. And I've also explained to everybody, I'm going to switch cameras. As you all know, Jay is always my phenomenal director. I miss him when he's not here. But he's actually working on a really cool project. But here, a couple of items here. Let's see if camera 2 looks better. We can actually see the smoke in camera 2.
Oh,
We
yeah.
can actually, do you see that? Hang on.
Wow.
Oh, what's going on here?
Just have to resize the image in the.
Yeah, what's going on
screen.
here? Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Can you guys see the smoke here? Okay, so now you can see the smoke, right? Let's go back. Do you see the smoke? Are you seeing this, Jay?
Oh, I can see it.
Yeah, let's switch over to camera 1. Now, camera 1 is giving us a different South Mountain East 1. That's the first camera. Butler Hill 2. Okay, so this is a Butler Hill camera. You can't see anything. I mean, this is so sad. It's absolutely heartbreaking. One of the other things, Jay, that I mentioned to everybody to make sure that they start working on is that thankfully Governor Newsom has announced approval from FEMA to help ensure availability, okay, to vital resources for Ventura County. This is what it looks like. One quick look here. This is where you have to go to get your FEMA support. And as I mentioned to our viewers, listen, you've got to have nothing but patience, okay? This takes a lot of work, okay? And I don't want anybody to get disheartened. It takes a lot of work. But get started now, right, Jay?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it will take time to file the paperwork, have it approved, but you're going to need that assistance, I think. We're looking at hundreds of homes that have been burned, if not completely destroyed already. Entire neighborhoods, in fact, sadly. And it's going to be a massive response. It's going to be required. It's going to take some time.
Yeah. So we're going to have to make sure that everybody, again, there is a link that you guys can go to. Let me read it to you all. gov.ca.gov/2024/11/06 California secures federal assistance to support response to mountain fire. Do not wait. Start the paperwork now. Now, I know in doing this, remember when I was working on that grant, Jay, for the flooding? You have to start. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of paperwork. Don't get disgruntled. Do not be sad about it. You can get help, but start the process at like ASAP, really. But yeah, so Jay, look at the storm here that we're talking about. That's sitting right around the southern plains, parts of the Rockies. It's a pretty good storm there. A nice upper level low there. That's going to continue to move. What are your thoughts about this all happening and how it's going to impact the fire?
Well, I think the storm system itself is going to eventually be a good thing for the fire, although it's bringing some pretty nasty weather to the areas that it's impacting.
Sure.
I did see 15 inches of snow, I believe,
Yes.
somewhere in Colorado.
And we have more snow coming with that next storm.
So wild thing. Here you go. We'll do some cross country weather.
Uh-huh.
So one of our favorite places in the country, the
Intermountain
Bradley,
West.
no, the Bradley Airport weather station
Ah,
in Connecticut reported an all-time high for the month of November today at 84 degrees.
wow.
Yesterday, 84 degrees. So in 1 week, they have set two all-time temperatures in the month of November in Connecticut. So you go from that extreme to 15 inches of snow falling at some of the ski areas in Colorado with this storm, and even New Mexico. Some of the mountains in New Mexico are getting hit pretty hard with this also.
Right.
You have some crazy weather impacting the different latitudes in the country, because the mountains of Colorado and New Mexico are a lot further south in latitude to New England, but yet they seem to be having the early cold weather and winter weather. I think that this front that you see there creeping toward the northwest, the Pacific Northwest, I think that's more of the game changer for the pattern going from summer into fall with a much colder change for everyone. That looks like it's going to be the
Oh.
real game changer.
And Jay, are you looking down here? Raphael?
Yeah,
Do you see him?
Raphael. It's a small compact hurricane.
He's yes. Nonetheless, even if it's impacting us, like you can see, it's impacting the Florida Keys. They do have their warnings. Let's go ahead and make sure we add those. It seems like I'm missing one warning here. It should be our tropical storm warning, but no worries. We'll add that right now. Anything to discuss? Look at it. You see a nice, healthy eye.
Yeah, and I think that at least for the next 24 hours, it's going to maintain intensity and be a problem for here's something that we don't throw into the forecast very often, but this is going to be a problem for the offshore oil and gas wells that are located off the coast of Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. Well, there's not as many toward the Florida Panhandle, but the Texas, Louisiana coastline has most of the United States offshore oil and gas production. So those rigs are going to be dealing with the wave action from this storm, which isn't going to move very fast, as well as the propagating wave action for the Florida coast. Like, they really need it. They don't need it. And I think this is the seventh Atlantic hurricane to impact the Gulf this year.
Yeah.
Like that is mind blowing.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk about a year that delivered on the forecast.
Yeah.
It's been extremely busy. So I do think because of that storm, the way that it's situated, the one in the Four Corners, and its impact on the overall pattern, I think that's going to help develop some of this blocking shear.
Yes.
That will ultimately work to weaken Raphael.
Yeah, it's going to shear. So guys, Jay is saying that there isn't going to be a consistent wind profile up through the top of this particular engine, which is what it essentially is. We have warm sea surface temperatures, but Jay is seeing that it's going to encounter some shearing. Jay, do you want to expound on that and share that? Because I think a lot of times people want to learn these terminology, and they want to know like what exactly you mean. So we're seeing this low, this upper level low, right? That's the storm system over the Four Corners. Now kind of moving more towards like the, I don't know, Southern Plains, if you will, Central Plains. So that right there is going to be a determining factor in the shearing process that we're seeing. So let's talk about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think and when you look at the long range in the upper levels, we're going to be adding shear, introducing more shear into the western part of the Gulf of Mexico over the next 24 hours. 24 to 36. And as Raphael makes its way westward, it's going to begin to encounter more shearing wind. And what I mean by that is a tropical cyclone is just a very large cluster of thunderstorm based activity that works through the 50,000, 60,000 foot level of the atmosphere. So if you take one supercell thunderstorm and you multiply it times 100 and put them all together, you're beginning to think of the mass and the coverage of a tropical cyclone. If
Jay, I'm so sorry. Very quickly, look at this.
Yep.
I'm going to show you something. Here you can get a really good depiction of the vertical directional shearing, okay?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, right. Okay, everybody, this is exciting. You're going to keep going, Jam. I love what you're telling us. But I also wanted to differentiate between the vertical speed shearing versus the directional shearing. And what Jay, I believe, might be referencing is both, right? But we definitely want to be very clear about that because we love showing you guys. Go for it, Jay. This is so good.
So one of the things that tropical cyclones require in order for them to actually form to begin with and then to maintain their strength is a cyclonic flow above them, which means typically calm air or very little directional shear, so that those higher clouds can work as a system at the top of this massive storm and continue to evacuate the warm air that's drawn up from the surface of the water upward. And that results in the condensation that continues to fuel the development of the storm from within. As the winds begin to shear or rip or tear, as some people would say,
the technical term is shearing.
Is shearing.
Okay.
But what it's doing is slicing the storm off from the top down in a case like this, where the convection and the ability for that warm air to rise into the upper levels begins to be taken away from the cyclone. And it doesn't take an awful lot to begin to weaken a tropical cyclone once you start to impact it with shear from the top down. It can be even so abrupt that you can introduce a situation that we love to say decoupling, where the entire area of convection above the surface low can be taken away and ripped off, if you will, so that the surface low actually exists on its own separately, and you can still see it through the satellite, the HIRAS satellite, but all of that convection activity gets carried away from the center of circulation, and it ultimately breaks down the storm to nothing.
Yeah, and look at this. So, Jay, what I did was I also added sea surface temperatures, right? So people can have an idea that the sea surface temperatures are just fine. Unfortunately, they're ranging. They're more than sufficient to provide fuel for this. Do you see the rain in the outer bands? Are you seeing that?
Yeah. So
are you looking at this?
That's pretty healthy cyclonic formation right now, where you can see the wispy cirrus clouds, propagating away from the storm. Those are at that very high level, that 50,000 foot level and above.
Right.
And that shows you that the cyclone is extremely healthy.
It's healthy right now.
Yeah, it's evacuating and it's doing its job as a heat engine. And you can actually see in this image too, Erica, just off to the west, there was an upper level cyclonic flow there. So you can tell that the storm is right underneath. Yeah, right there. You can see how
there it is.
Yeah, it's underneath an area of high pressure, weak high pressure in that part of the Gulf. And that's why it's maintaining that intensity right now. And with the warm ocean water, that's why, and this has been the case with all of the forecasting this year, the computer models have a very difficult job because they do not interpret the sea surface temperatures all that well. And if anything, they underestimate the intensity forecasts. And we have done a good job at Weather Co-op to make a more, I'll call it accurate adjustment to those early
Yeah.
forecast models.
And you know what,
And,
guys? We can't be afraid, just for everybody that's watching right now, you can't be afraid to adjust your forecast. Now, it's not that you do a last minute forecast. We have been
no,
looking at this since the 23rd of October, but
right.
we do amend our forecasts daily and quite often. I'm sorry, Jay. Mhm.
No, it's okay. For instance, you were hinting at the potential for a major hurricane to hit Cuba. And that was a week out from the actual landfall. And the computer models themselves were struggling to even take it to Cat 2 by landfall in Cuba. So that's another instance where the actual meteorologist forecasting is so valuable compared to the computer models themselves. We never just rely on the computer models, but the model certainly did not have Raphael at this intensity this far in the game when we were looking at the models several days ago.
Jay, is
But
it okay if I hop off of this quickly? We just got an update about the mountain fire. We're going to come back, guys, to Raphael because this is a
yeah,
great story. We're going to show you what Jay was talking about, whether it was the speed shearing, vertical speed shearing, or vertical directional shearing. We're going to get to that in just one moment. Let's zoom on in right here, Jay. Sorry, let me
there
try
you
to
go.
get out here as quickly as possible. Well, you've already discussed the let's see, the spotting, the 2.5 mile spotting. So we will remove that text box because you're here giving us great information. We're also going to remove our watches and warnings. We do have the update, Jay. Let me explain it to you. Updated at 7:21 p.m. Unified Command CAL FIRE, San Luis Obispo, and Ventura County Fire Department. We are now at 20,485 acres, still only 5% contained.
Okay. And that you're showing your smoke right now?
This is our surface smoke. Would you like to see the vertical smoke? So here, I'm going to introduce to you the vertical integrated smoke profile, okay? And here we're going to go ahead and remove the surface smoke. This is the vertical smoke. This is the vertical smoke.
All right. Can you zoom in on that a little bit so that I can see?
Where would you like? Over Somis?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
What product would you like?
I wanted to see this first, but if you can toggle back to the surface smoke
Okay.
briefly.
Let me give you an update. Okay, so with the vertically integrated smoke product, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's get into exactly what we're talking about here. So it simulates the total smoke mass within a vertical column, which I always discuss, Jay, with the viewers and everybody when I'm working with them. So vertical columns over each model grid cell, identifying smoke that may affect visibility and the weather, both near the surface and aloft. So last night we also did an update on visibility, which I do think we'll do as well. Let's go back to our surface product. Look at this. This is the near surface smoke versus the the integrated smoke profile. Okay, integrated smoke, near surface smoke. Look at that.
Oh boy. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that's disturbing because we not that it was good. I don't want to say that it was good.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad anyway you slice it, but we at least were dealing with more of an offshore
Right.
direction to the smoke
Right.
earlier, and now it is definitely shifting and moving more toward like a parallel on the coast. So it's going to be much worse for those communities along the shore.
Are you seeing how the smoke is all spreading now right along the coast,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's bad. So you have anywhere from oh, what's up there at the north? Point Magoo,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's up there at the tip, all the way down to Malibu, and you get down close to Pacific Palisades there, if I'm seeing that right. So
Yes.
you're running the whole length of the 101 through that area, and there is a lot of population in that area, and the major part of that plume to the south is over like Calabasas.
Right. Oh, they're
So
already getting impacted by that smoke. I mean, they're definitely in the crosshairs.
yeah, that is not looking good for the surface smoke for sure. And that may
Wow.
even start to actually in that direction, that may begin to have an impact on the flights coming into and out
Oh,
of LAX.
okay, Jay, very quickly. Here's an update. Here's an update. Are you seeing what I've just pulled up here? This is visibility. Look at the
Mm,
visibility. It's pretty it's non-existent. It's got to be less than a quarter of a mile.
yeah.
I wanted to show everybody that at home. This is the visibility now that we're looking at due to this fire. Again, it is only 5% contained, over 20,000 acres burned. Exactly what we have reported at 7:21 p.m. 20,485 acres. Okay. We still don't have the cause. It's still under investigation. But look at what we have here. This product that I've just overlaid, let me go ahead and straighten this out here in my
So if you toggle, yeah, if you jog down just
hang on a second, guys.
sorry,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I was gonna say if you jog southward just a hair from where that is now,
Uh-huh.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Thank
look
you.
at that. Yeah. Go for
Oof.
it, Jay. What is it that you want to add? This is the
Well,
visibility, guys. Anybody who's just tuning in right now, we've added our near surface smoke, right? This is what that looks like. It's absolutely, Jay just talked about the coast. It's just about, I mean, Thousand Oaks, Malibu. Who else did you mention? You mentioned
Cal- Calabasas,
Calabasas. You mentioned
Camarillo, uh,
Camarillo.
all the way
Okay,
up to Point Magoo.
so now we're going to remove the near surface smoke, and this is just visibility due to the smoke. Jay, this is serious.
Yeah.
This is
Okay.
really
So
bad.
I'll give you a little bit of an info guide here to the viewers. So as you see the wind barbs and the way that they are kind of wrapping around the smoke plume there, and then they funnel into a really tight, compact unit just to the south of where the main smoke is there, where they show the fire symbol. The area where the smoke plume is part of the mountain range, and that's why the wind looks like it's less there. It's not that it really is less, it's just that it's going around the mountain closer to the surface. Oh yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
That's the 850
Yeah.
millibar height.
Okay.
Okay.
I
And the
knew you were doing that
and,
too.
and very quickly, everybody, the reason you're getting this from Jay and I is because now we're talking at about 3,800, 3,500 to about 5,000 feet. Correct, Jay?
Yes, yes.
You want to go through the
And
details of the 850 millibar chart and why I'm pulling that up?
well, when it comes to this fire, the most important thing to remember here is that I was just giving you an explanation of why the winds were deviating their direction and going around the mountains and through the passes. At 3,500 to or 3,800 to 5,000 feet, you are above the height of the Santa Monica Mountains, which are around 2,500 to just, I think they're just under 3,000 feet. So now you're seeing a much cleaner, I guess, image of the wind direction because it's not being inhibited by the mountains themselves. It's going over the top.
Jay, I have to
Uh,
ask you.
yeah, go ahead.
Your dad has told me some of the saddest stories as a firefighter.
Sure.
What are these heroes? I mean, it makes me so sad. Like they can't see right now. The smoke has absolutely hindered their visibility.
Yeah, I mean, breathing apparatus helps a lot in situations like that because at least you're not choking from the smoke,
What about
but
visibility right now?
you
This is the
can't.
visibility map.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do to improve your vision in that kind of smoke. And the heat that the fire is generating is relentless. It's just you're in an oven essentially. And one of the firefighters today described it quite appropriately when he said that you were bringing a squirt gun to a bonfire,
It's so sad. It literally
and there's nothing that they can do. It's
so
really they're helpless right now. The water was literally turning to steam coming out of the fire hoses because they couldn't compete with the heat.
Sorry, I'm so emotional about this, but it makes me so sad. Like, I just
Yeah.
cannot imagine, like, if my husband or my wife or my anybody, like, knowing that they're risking their lives to go in here and look at the visibility. It's nil right now. They cannot see through the
Oh no,
smoke.
these are true heroes at work because they are risking their lives to do this, and right now they're doing it to try to save other people's lives
Yeah,
who are losing their homes by the hour.
yeah.
It's the open land fires have to be contained, and they're going to work on those. And at least there, you have more of an ability to air attack things like that, and not have to essentially get as directly involved. But when you're dealing with homes, and you're dealing with neighborhoods, and you're dealing with
The elderly, pets,
yeah,
animals.
evacuating people and animals. There are people, I've seen it already, the videos from this fire where people with health conditions and handicaps are being carried out by the firefighters as the homes are catching on fire behind them.
You guys,
That's the kind of thing you're dealing with.
it's so, I mean, I'm like heartbroken here because it's one thing to know that the surface smoke is one issue, but to see, look at how quickly the poor visibility is expanding. Look at the smoke. I mean, I just can't imagine. They can't see.
No.
And so, I mean, I know, I wish your dad was up and I wish he could join us right now, and maybe we can get a firefighter to join us, but I want to know, like, what is it that you're relying on here? Is it just sheer instinct? I mean, I know you've learned so much when you go to these fire academies, but I'm just like, I can't even imagine. Look at how quickly the poor visibility is expanding. Look at the smoke.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so
That's
sad.
that's zero visibility.
Zero visibility as they fight this fire that's only 5% contained. And once again, I moved to an 850 millibar wind profile. So we're somewhere between like 3,500 to about 5,000 feet. And we said that, Jay, because even though some people will say, well, I don't know, let me actually quickly look at Miss California elevation. I mean, there's some things I know a lot of, and then some things I need to like think about, right? So I mean, elevation is like sea level, correct? I mean, it's not
Right.
very high at all. But we still want to look at the height of the winds at 850 millibars versus. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, well, easily enough, Erica. The important thing about 800 uh, is that smoke in an ideal scenario is supposed to rise. It's supposed to evacuate up from the fire.
Right.
And when you have winds blowing that hard, right off the deck, as we would like to say, so right over the fire, right over the mountains,
Yeah.
you are pushing that smoke right over the land area. In this case, you're pushing it over the beach and the coastline, and it doesn't have a chance to rise up into the atmosphere and dissipate. So you're taking that very thick smoke, very hazardous to breathe smoke, and you're keeping it closer to the ground and blowing it down the coast, 20, 30, 50 miles.
I mean, I'm just so blown away right now by the poor visibility and how quickly this smoke is decreasing visibility. It's hindering visibility. So once again, if like when I talk to your father, who's been a firefighter for so many years, look what's happening here, Jay. Look what's happening. Are we
Well, I
seeing
think,
other pockets? Because as you mentioned,
yeah,
can you once again talk about the spotting? That was a very interesting point you raised.
yeah, and I think what that image is also showing you is that we are getting a flare up on that southerly
Right here.
flank, that
Here.
southeasterly flank of the fire.
What about this here?
Uh,
We have another one. Look at this. That could be like you were talking about
maybe,
spotting.
yeah. So but look at those last couple of frames in that loop. You see how the the western aspect of that plume grows, it
Yeah,
looks like it broke out into an area where it's burning uncontested, and that's the area where it looks to be the area where it's bordering up to those farm fields that I was describing earlier.
right. Tell us more about it, please, because I thought that was at least perhaps a light of hope there, some kind of light that would make maybe help out a bit. We do know that the winds are subsiding. That area of high pressure has got to go east. It's just got to go, but we have to deal with that storm that's sitting over the four corners. So talk to us about what you were saying with the agriculture and perhaps that maybe that could help.
Yes, so just to the west of where the smoke plume is right now.
And this is the visibility map. This is how
Yeah,
poor the visibility is right there. And now I'm going to overlay that. Look at the smoke. I'm sorry, Jake, go for it.
that's okay. So with the fire, the main fire itself, it is burning. The vast majority of the fire is burning within 3 relatively major roads that run through that area. The largest of those being the 101 freeway. The fire is burning just to the north of the 101 freeway, and then just to the north. Let me get my directions right. Just to the northwest of Los Angeles Avenue, East and West Los Angeles Avenue, and then on the northern aspect of the fire, we have one more major road that's bordering the fire and somewhat helping to establish a perimeter of the main fire. And the firefighters are working really hard to try and contain the main area of the fire between those roads and triangulate it with the roads. The problem is that with the wind, we're seeing the embers from the main fire being lofted up into the air and blown a mile or 2 miles or up to 2.5 miles away from the main fire. And the embers are so big that they're starting other secondary fires ahead of the main fire line. And that is a nightmare for firefighters because they don't know where to go until the fires start. And then they have to get there quickly enough to extinguish those before they start burning into larger fires. There is a fairly large area, looks to be about 50 acres or so, that did start in a residential neighborhood, 5 miles or so south of the main fire, and continued to burn through a residential neighborhood and destroy dozens of homes today. So that's the kind of impact that the spotting can have.
This is
Now
just
that we're
the
seeing,
spotting, right? You mentioned
yeah,
that, and now we're waiting for it to hopefully perhaps encounter some kind of agricultural area because of the.
yeah, there's a fairly large, and I don't know the exact dimensions of it, but it looks to be a few hundred acres of farmland right on the perimeter of the fire right now. So on the western flank of the fire, there is a significant amount of farm fields for agriculture, and those are all irrigated with sprinkler systems. So it's a benefit in a case like this where they can turn on those irrigation systems and help suppress the fire on that one flank. But with the turn, as indicated by the smoke plume, we're beginning to see, it looks like we're beginning to see some burning going on to the southeast
Mhm.
of the fire. And
Yes.
that's where I'm worried about that, because that's where you start to get into the Santa Monica National Forest. That is very mountainous terrain and very remote vegetated terrain where the fire could burn explosively if it gets in there and we still have even a little bit of wind at the tail end of this event to help blow it through that mountain range. We could be dealing with a difficult time tomorrow looking at that.
And Jay, I have it set to right now. Let me give it I'll give it a 2 hour loop. That's fine. And maybe I'll just give it a 1 hour loop. But I do want to show you very quickly that we also can see the bridge fire here in the smoke, right? Which is currently, I think as you said, it's like 95% contained. Let's just go through it. Was it the bridge fire?
The
No, it
bridge
wasn't
fire,
the bridge fire. No, it wasn't. I'm so sorry. Hold on.
yeah, that was the
No.
fire in Malibu, right?
Malibu, correct. Okay, so the bridge fire, okay, it's 99% contained as of 8:25 a.m. That was the last report, but you can see here the remnants of the smoke, okay? And that, remember, is our surface smoke. But once again, Jay, we are here focusing on the mountain fire. And the concern that I have, I think this just brought me to tears to see. Look at the poor, I mean, there's no visibility. These firefighters can't even see. This rescue management team that's out there, they can't even see what's ahead of them. They're walking blindly. And the only thing I can say is that the area of high pressure, that ridge, it will come back to this. Do you want me to stay on this graphic, or do you want me to head on over to the wider perspective of the hour by hour forecast? Because we know we need that area to move, right? That area of high pressure. We also know there's a storm coming down, but I am so concerned right now about the winds at 850 millibars, and we're also so concerned about the visibility.
Yeah. And maybe just if you want to go a little wider with that, but I think that's appropriate to stay with that. Yeah, because you can see how that smoke is working toward Thousand Oaks and Calabasas. I mean, those are extremely highly populated areas that are now going to deal with
Look at that.
health hazard, smoke health hazard. Yeah.
Yes, that's right, Simeon. We are praying. We are praying. We're praying for everybody, Simeon. We are praying for those poor people. We're praying for the firefighters.
And
Uh,
the wildlife, as you
and the
always bring up,
wildlife,
Erica.
the
Yeah.
animals, and let you know what. Let me thank you so much for sharing that, Simeon. It means a lot to us here. Let me go. Okay, I'm so sorry, Jay. As we were talking about, look at the winds. Look at how they're behaving right now. They're a little active now. They're not as strong as they were yesterday. And we talked about how they would diminish by later this evening, but we're still seeing a unique situation here because we're seeing that these winds are variable. We never love variable winds, you know that, especially when we're talking about fires. It looks like there is a trough that cuts kind of into central California, but let's talk a little bit about that, Jay. Those winds once again.
Well, you are seeing another illustration of how those winds funnel around the mountains themselves and work their way through the mountain passes. So this is a very good illustration of where the higher elevations are within the Santa Monica Mountains, just based on where you can see the wind going. It at this level that you're reading, you won't see the wind going over the tops of the mountains. What you'll do is see it looking for the path of least resistance
Right.
and moving into the canyons.
Great point. Path of least resistance, Jay.
Right. Yeah.
You know, the wind is very smart. It's always about path of least resistance, achieving equilibrium. It needs balance. And that's what it'll do. It'll squeeze through these canyons. It'll squeeze through oftentimes when you're like, I'm in a wind tunnel, especially like in New York City, through those buildings, that's kind of the same idea, right?
Yeah. And what is the physics behind that? It will accelerate when it's forced into a volume. And in the case of downslope acceleration, it will also dry and warm as it's doing that.
Wow.
So that, all of those ingredients do not help when you're dealing with a wildfire.
No, not at all.
Look at that right there.
Yeah, look at that. And look at how it's pushing the smoke. We're going to go back to this product right here. We were showing this earlier. I think this is a camera that we might want to share for sure. We're going to switch on over. Jay's done such a great job, by the way, designing our entire studio. We love it. It's so beautiful. And we're able to do so much here. Let's go to our camera one.
You can still see the smoke in that other camera.
And camera two. There it is. Camera two. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Camera two is absolutely a big problem right now. So we're going to switch back though to our own products here and kind of go through this. Sorry, there's a little maneuvering that has to happen here on my end.
Great job.
Thank you. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that it's worth maneuvering, going back and forth, because we need to make sure that we're up to date with everything that's happening here. Once again, we have several road closures. We have lots of school closures. That's going to be the case for tomorrow as well. And we have our evacuation shelters, Padre Sarah Parish, 5205 Upland Road, Camarillo, Large Animal Evacuation Center, Ventura County Fairgrounds, Small Animal Evacuation Center, Ventura County Animal Services. Oh, so sad. And look at how the smoke is absolutely making it pretty much that much more difficult for our heroes to see.
So one thing that I don't want to bring up here, but it is the reality. You know as well as I do that that area, when you get up into the Malibu Hills and you get up into the areas around Camarillo and Oxnard, there are a lot of horse ranches up in those hills where they do have a lot of horses,
I'm so heartbroken right now.
and
I'm so sad right now.
you know you just hope that they have enough time to get them out of there and do what they need to do with them. But because of the attraction of that terrain and being just far enough away from greater Los Angeles, uh, over the last 50 to 100 years, a lot of people have made stables out in that area, and I'm just praying. I'm just praying.
This is so sad. So just here's an only 15 minutes of straight smoke would kill you, and just 5 to 10 minutes would cause permanent brain damage in humans. And just like humans, pets usually have less than 20 minutes, depending upon the location of the fire and how fast the fire is burning. I mean,
And
is that registering? This fire is so out of control right now, and we need this area, this Aleutian low to dive on down to move in quicker. It's unfortunately not moving fast enough, but look at the expansive nature of the smoke. Once again, this is the visibility right now for these firefighters. They can't even see right now. And these are the winds at 850 millibars. And Jay, we chose 850 millibars. Why again?
because it's showing you an accurate depiction of what the winds are doing just above the height of the mountains in that area, and that is taking the smoke and blowing it across the coastline rather than letting it
Yeah.
drift up aloft and dissipate up in the atmosphere. It's keeping it
Yeah.
denser and thicker and blowing it down the coastline, which is a lot more hazardous to your health for breathing. And you could see it in that camera shot where the smoke looked like fog because it was staying
It looks
closer
like
to the
fog.
circle. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's not good. You really don't want that. One thing that we didn't throw in earlier, Erica, was that at one point Cal Fire reported that the fire was burning 2,000 acres an hour.
That is just heartbreaking. 2,000 acres an hour. This is just absolutely horrible. Once again, we talk about the threat to life. Only 15 minutes of straight smoke would kill anybody. In just 5 to 10 minutes, it would cause permanent brain damage in humans. And pets, animals they're very similar to humans, only have a maximum of 20 minutes depending on the location and, of course, the speed of the fire. This is just so heartbreaking. On top of that, we have poor visibility right now for the firefighters, and this is just not good. We're having an issue over here with something as well as visibility here. Looks like that might
Yeah,
be
that's over near
some.
Point Magoo, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Let's see. So here we have once again the problem that we're having, Jay, with our visibility.
Yeah, and that goes all the way down to PCH. I mean, that's impacting anybody that could be driving on the 101. I wouldn't be surprised if they shut the 101 down
They
because
may have to. They
yeah,
may have to. You're right.
right,
You're
yeah,
right. Because this
right.
is just this is burning It's very aggressive. These are your 850 millibar winds. Let's even go up a little bit higher. Do you want to go a little higher to see what the winds might be like?
Yeah, I'm guessing that you'll see it flatten out a little bit more.
At what? Like, do you want to go to 500? Let's go to
Yeah,
500.
go to 500.
Here we go. Do you see?
Yeah, there you go. So
There
that's
you go.
flattening out. Right.
Yeah.
That
So,
makes sense.
yeah. Anything else you want to add to this before we go
No.
back to, now we're going to go back to Hurricane Raphael. That's been the other story, but I want to show you something quickly, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the labels right now, okay? Let's see if I can remove them. I want to show you something. We were on our future cast because we're trying to figure out, we knew yesterday that the winds weren't going to help us out at all, okay? And we knew that we needed to wait several hours. I figured by tonight we'd be better, which we are in general, but the problem is that we're still seeing an issue with the overall pattern, right? And so even though the winds are a lot weaker than they were last night, we still have an issue, correct, Jay?
Right.
Okay. So
And
as we were talking, I'm sorry?
no, go ahead.
Okay. No, so as we were talking earlier, there's your area of high pressure, right? Do you see it sitting over the Great Basin? And you can tell why, because the air is sinking. There's nothing there. We're not even seeing any clouds. Okay. This is the kind of day I wish I saw a cloud. One cloud. That's all I would want. Something that would indicate that we're seeing, all right, less dry air, but that's not the case, right? So our area of high pressure is sitting over the Great Basin. We're looking at that storm system that's now starting to lift, right? It's starting to move. Good news there. We need that. We need this to move. It's 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. There it is. It's moving as it does. Do you see what's happening with Raphael? But more importantly, I'm liking this because by Friday night, Saturday morning, this is when we start to get even more of an introduction of some type of moisture due to that storm system and that frontal boundary that's going to dive on down. Any thoughts, Jay?
Well, I think the transition is going to be a bit of a shocker for some people who may have kept the cold weather gear in the closet a little bit too long. I think this will certainly change people's opinions about what season they're supposed to be in.
I just got somebody tell me they can't hear me. So I'm that's CPEZ. CPEZ is on right now, so we're going to talk to CPEZ. I hope you guys can hear me better right now. Okay.
I can hear you. I don't know what
We'll just make sure. But that's good though. Thank you so much. Thank you, CPEZ. Thank you. Okay. That's our world champion, CPEZ. Okay, world champion, 3-time world champion accordion player. Okay, so follow him, guys. He's like the best musician ever, and he plays a lot in Southern California. Okay, so Jay, we are looking. So in order for us to get any type of a break here from what we've been looking at here, which is our mountain fire, we will have to, and we're going to go with a 2-hour loop. Okay, that's all we're going to do. We're going to get this going. Now, you guys are seeing a bit of a delay as I drag this. It's only because I have several products. There you go. This is a storm. We need to move, right? This guy's going to move. As it does, it's going to signal to that area of high pressure, like we got to get out of here because there's a new storm that's coming on down from the Pacific Northwest, right? Okay. So now we're going to go back into the fire. And Jay, any other thoughts here? We're seeing a freeze warning as well, a freeze watch as well issued by the National Weather Service. Let's go over that. So we have our frost advisory. Is this it? Freeze watch. Here it is. That's what I was looking at there. Our freeze watch. And then, of course, we have no surprise here, Jay, air quality alert, right? No surprise.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
That's the least of my concerns right now, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, go for it. Talk to me.
Well, we need to really give the firefighters some time to get some really solid containment on the fire tomorrow. And if the forecast holds, and if we can pull that low, I'd like to think that the high is more responsible for the Santa Ana because that's usually the case.
Well, it is.
But,
It is the case. It's not that you hope so. It is the case, but we're
well,
waiting for that. As you mentioned, we're waiting for that low to dive down. We're also waiting for that low in the four corners to move. So let's talk
i-
about that.
in this particular situation,
Sure.
we are actually looking at both of them because they're creating their own gradient,
Sure.
and that is only amplifying the impact of what the high would have on its own. So with both of those two
Well,
areas,
explain that. Explain that. I like
yeah,
go ahead and explain that to the viewers. Would you like me to go out a little bit more? Or are you okay here?
sure, no, sure,
Okay.
yeah, you're okay.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what area of the country you're dealing with, but in this case, we're dealing with the Southwest. Whenever you have an area of high pressure and low pressure within, several hundred miles of one another, the difference between the high pressure and the low pressure creates a pressure gradient between them, where the air compacts and actually creates a wind event simply by the difference in pressure between the highest of the high pressure and the lowest of the low pressure, pushing against one another. Essentially, it's kind of a compression based wind. Like if you clap your hands, it's the wind that's created from clapping your hands that you feel. And that's what happens as these areas of atmospheric pressure work against one another. So where the fort, the vorticity and the wind maximum exists is typically in the southwestern area of the high and the northwestern area of the low. And that's where you would have the area of the highest wind potential. So that area just happens to be sitting over the same area where the fire is located and is helping to magnify or amplify the impact of what we call the Santa Ana winds. And we're ending up with winds that are near hurricane force blowing through some of these mountain passes. And in Southern California, you're used to the Santa Ana winds this time of the year, but very rarely, it's maybe a handful of times a year where you have to deal with wind speeds that are, more than tropical storm force and hurricane force at times. And that automatically is going to create a high fire risk. And in this case, we do have a fire that we're dealing with. And because of the wind, the fire has grown explosively over the last 24 hours.
Oh, absolutely. And I just want to one more time add on our visibility map here, our visibility product, and we're going to keep it at our graphed, maybe at 4 kilometers, North American high resolution. So now I'm going to remove, let's see, let's give it a minute. It does need a minute to pull up the proper data. Maybe we'll go back to the European, but we just had that up earlier, which was the visibility, which was very poor. It's going to go ahead and populate shortly. In the meantime, as it does, we're going to keep the contour here for the near surface smoke. And once again, we did compare that to what was happening with the vertically integrated smoke. So I just think that right now, the biggest concern, no surprise here, let's put our watches and warnings up. What are we seeing? Air quality issues, right? Air quality concerns. And so this is the problem. Right now, we are at 20,485 acres and we are just 5% contained. Jay, this is a problem that we're going to be dealing with for several more hours, and we are sending our prayers. Anything else you'd like to add? I'm going to go ahead and leave this, allow this to just loop. And I'll be back. I want to go ahead and break up these forecasts a little bit because we do have to go over Raphael, and we also have to go over what's happening in over in the Western Pacific, right? So,
Yeah, and I have to get out of here because I think we have a frost advisory here. It's a little chilly.
That's the Southern California guy talking there. He's
Yeah.
no longer from New England. Well, guys, we want to say thank you so much for joining us for the last, looks like an hour and a half. We were so grateful to have you. We're so hoping that if you have any questions, you can inbox us, message us, anything. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. The biggest concern we have right now includes the concern for smoke, of course, and we also have the concern for visibility, which is zero for a massive part of the area. We can see how the smoke is just migrating southeastward very quickly. You see that's kind of going down the coast there, Jay? And we're
Yeah, I
seeing that,
do.
yeah, I'm sorry?
I do. It's paralleling the coast, and that if that continues, it's going to carry that smoke all the way down to Malibu, Pacific Palisades, maybe even close to you, the studio in Santa Monica.
Oh, absolutely. And so I think this is going to be the biggest concern over the next several hours. I'd like to go out just a little bit more. You can see here San Luis Obispo, Arroyo Grande, Orchid, Lompoc, Solvang, Goleta, Thousand Oaks being impacted by the smoke here. This is absolutely a sad situation tonight. And we are sending our prayers to the heroes who are fighting this fire right now, because it is only 5% contained, and we're seeing just how bad the visibility is right now, Jay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Thoughts and prayers.
All right, guys. Well, I'm certified broadcast meteorologist Erica Martins, Skywarn storm spotter with over 185,000 miles of chasing tornadoes under my belt, and I am a Weather Ready Nation ambassador. I'm here with my partner in crime and my partner in life, who happens to be a Skywarn storm spotter with about 200,000 miles of storm chasing under his belt, if not more, as
Better
well as
estimate.
he's a Weather Ready Nation ambassador under the company Weather Co-op. And remember, you guys can send us any questions at any time. We will be back. I'll be back shortly in about another hour or so with some more updates. All right, guys? You have a good couple of maybe 60 minutes. I'll see you.